Goedenavond dames en heren, welkom bij TROS Aktua. Vanavond bij ons één onderwerp en u heeft er misschien al iets over gehoord of gelezen. Het spraakmakende interview met het Engelse prinselijk paar Charles en Diana. Dit interview werd gisteren door de Engelse televisie uitgezonden en werd door ongeveer 20 miljoen Britten bekeken. Natuurlijk was er een aanleiding voor deze plotselinge openhartigheid van Charles en Diana. Wat ging eraan vooraf?
Op 29 juli 1981 geloofde de wereld weer even in sprookjes. Toen de 32-jarige Engelse kroonprins Charles zijn jawoord gaf aan de 20-jarige Lady Diana Spencer. 650 miljoen televisiekijkers over de hele wereld konden van het koninklijke bruiloftsspektakel meegenieten.
I, Charles Philip Arthur George.
I, Charles Philip Arthur George.
Take thee, Diana Francis.
Take thee, Diana Francis.
To my wedded wife.
To my wedded wife.
Bruid en bruidegom op het balkon van Buckingham Palace. Onder het applaus van, naar schatting, 500.000 Britten op de Mall en op het plein in ontvangst te nemen.
Tot nog geen jaar daarvoor leidde Lady Diana een bescheiden en onopvallend leven als kleuterleidster. Maar toen de geruchten de ronde deden dat Charles belangstelling voor haar had, werd ze belegerd door journalisten en fotografen. Het nieuws van de verloving kwam begin februari 1981.
I asked Diana before she went to Australia, 2-3 days before. Because I thought it'd be a good idea that, apart from anything else, if she went to Australia, she could then think about it. And if she didn't like the idea, she could say she didn't. Or if she did, she could say that. But in fact, you actually said...
Yes, quite promptly.
Shy Di werd ze toen nog genoemd, verlegen Diana. Maar Diana leerde al snel omgaan met al die publiciteit. Overal waar ze kwam, trokken haar optreden, haar kleding en het kapsel meer belangstelling dan welk wereldnieuws ook. Maar de media, in keiharde concurrentiestrijd, wilden meer dan alleen maar die lieve verhaaltjes over het nieuwbakken echtpaar. Al snel na het huwelijk begonnen de geruchten en de roddels in de bladen en de kranten. Shy Di zou bepaald niet zo verlegen zijn, maar juist een dominante tante die Charles dwong zijn hobby's en vrienden op te geven. Ze zou het halve paleispersoneel hebben ontslagen. Ze zou prinses Anne kleineren, dom zijn en alleen maar geïnteresseerd in popmuziek en mode. En Charles zou zich steeds meer in zichzelf terugtrekken en zich overgeven aan mystieke séances om de geest van zijn geliefde oom, de overleden Lord Mountbatten, op te roepen.
Ja, en als klap op de vuurpijl verscheen er vorige week, 14 dagen voor het eerste bezoek van het prinselijk paar aan de Verenigde Staten, een spraakmakend artikel in het Amerikaanse blad Vanity Fair. Een keiharde aanval op het persoonlijk leven van Charles en Diana. We noemen een paar citaten uit dat artikel.
Diana's bekende verlegenheid is een van haar meest misleidende karaktereigenschappen.
Verder wordt er over haar gezegd: zij besteedt uren aan het bestuderen van krantenknipsels over haarzelf, alsof zij op die manier achter het geheim van haar eigen uitstraling probeert te komen. Ze was woedend toen gemeld werd dat ze 500.000 gulden had uitgegeven aan haar garderobe voor het bezoek aan Italië. Net als Jackie Onassis voor haar is kopen voor Diana dé manier om te ontspannen en heeft ze er waarschijnlijk geen idee van wat dat allemaal kost.
Over de verhouding met haar schoonzus, prinses Anne, schrijft het blad Vanity Fair het volgende. Prinses Diana had prinses Anne niet gevraagd om peettante te zijn bij de doop van prins Harry. Anne bleef weg bij de plechtigheid en ging in plaats daarvan die dag op konijnenjacht.
En over de eetgewoonten van het prinselijk paar. Het was niet Diana die van Charles een vis- en gevogelte-fanaat maakte. Wat hij eet interesseert haar niet, omdat ze zelf constant op dieet is.
En tenslotte citeren wij uit het Amerikaanse artikel over Prins Charles. Nu ieder ander weer gewoon doet, heeft hij de flower power ontdekt en houdt zich bezig met bruine rijst en spiritisme.
Voor het eerst in de geschiedenis van het Britse koningshuis besloot het prinselijk paar zelf een einde te maken aan alle verhalen. Gisteren gaven zij voor de Engelse televisie een interview om de beschuldigingen te weerspreken. Vanavond brengen wij in TROS Aktua dit interview. Dat begint met een ongedwongen ontmoeting met de filmploeg in aanwezigheid van de 2 prinsjes, de 3-jarige William en de 1 jaar oude Harry. En gaat u daar maar eens vorstelijk voor zitten.
Quatre-mains voor 2 prinsen. Een koninklijke compositie. Een fotosessie op het Kensington Palace met de prins en de prinses van Wales en de familie.
Ik ga nu een beetje luiden.
Ze denken dat ze goed poseren voor de fotograaf, maar ze moeten even hun best doen voor nog een beter plaatje.
What do you say?
One more kiss. One more kiss, please. Steady.
Stop doing it, Harry. You didn't mean to do it.
Harry.
De jonge pianeur krijgt van zijn vader te horen waar hij naar moet kijken.
William.
Really? Right. Oh, right. Henry's standing there, it's fine.
See.
In de zitkamer van het Kensington Paleis spreken de prins en de prinses van Wales over hun leven en hun werk, hun zorgen, hun interesses, hun kleine leed en hun familie. Over prins William bijvoorbeeld, die net naar school is gebracht.
Your Royal Highnesses, everybody thought Prince William did terribly well when he set off to school, and you said to him, wave everyone goodbye, and then he just went away. Were you a little sad at that moment?
Well, I was, because it's opening another chapter in my life, and certainly William's. But he's ready for it. He's a very independent child. He's surrounded by a tremendous amount of grown-ups, so his conversation's very forthright. And as you saw, he's more than happy to go down those steps and join the other children. We do see a lot of children, but there's always this myth that William, being who he is, hardly ever sees a child. But I have 2 sisters that have with 5 children between them. And I have lots of friends who have children as well, so we get around.
And he really does enjoy it. I mean, what did he say to you that first day when he came home?
Well, he was just so excited by it all, and there was a tremendous spurt of conversation. If you could understand that, you could understand anything. He's trying to get it all out. But he just adores other children, and very much an organiser, which probably might be helpful in future years.
The world sees your partnership, the Prince and Princess of Wales, as a unique job. But what do you think the nature of your job really is?
Well, the difficulty is, of course, that I dare say other people may think differently from what we do. But I think the first and most important thing, really, is that it's not so much a job as a way of life. I think this is the essential feature of the whole thing. And I mean, I frequently read things saying, why doesn't he get a proper job, or something like that. And I honestly, personally believe that the whole way of one's life is part of the job. And one of the important things, I think, is that it is more than anything else the fact that one is trying to be ambassadors, I hope both of us, for this country. And the way I think we live our lives, in a sense, is also the role. But again, I don't think I can say too often that the particular position that I find myself in, and my wife, there is no actual laid down job or role, and you have to a certain extent, do as you think right and fit. It'd be quite easy to do nothing, in fact. So it's really just the way you feel that things should be done. And above all else, I think the important thing is to serve this country and its people and the Commonwealth.
But I do notice that one of your increasing interests seems to be jobs for young people and getting young people a start in a business life.
Very much so, yes. I've been very much involved in this, really, I think, since those rather dreadful riots in Toxteth and elsewhere in 1981, which is the year we were getting married. And I thought rather seriously about things then, and got together some of the people in my trusts, and we worked out a scheme, because I felt very strongly that we ought to try and find a way of enabling young people in rather deprived parts of the country, in inner city areas and so on, to actually start their own enterprises, because I believe that there is a great deal of talent which lies underutilised. And with a grant of about £1,000, it's amazing what can be started. I went to give the 1,000th of these grants to one of these young people from London.
At the other end of the scale, you had a meeting with some businessmen from Boston. What did you learn from them?
Well, this is one of those extraordinary occasions when, much to my amazement, the Americans have actually learned something from us. And they've started this thing called Jobs for Youth in Boston.
But ma'am, when you go out on your engagements, launching things and lunching people and so on, it is a great responsibility. But what do you feel your role is? What is your contribution?
I feel my role is supporting my husband, and whenever I can, and always being behind him, encouraging, and also, most important thing, being a mother and a wife. And that's what I try to achieve. Whether I do is another thing, but I did try.
But you are developing your own interests and your own specialisation.
Yes, but that's taking time, because I don't want to dive into something without being able to follow it up. Nothing would upset me more than just being a name on a top of a piece of paper and not showing any interest at all.
You were struck first by the hospices, weren't you?
Yes.
What particularly, when you first went into one, what did you sense about it?
I'd always been led to believe that it was possibly an unhappy place, because patients went in there and not always did they come out. So it was fascination on one side and concern on the other. And certainly after I'd been around the first ward, I remember it so vividly. I was struck by the calmness coming out of the patients in their bed. And most of them will have gone by now, obviously. And it was confronting their illness. They were so brave about it and made me feel so humble.
And also Dr. Bernardo's with mentally handicapped children.
You see, I've got two very healthy, strong boys, and it's not always the case with the families I'm meeting through Dr. Bernardo's, and I realise how incredibly lucky I am. And I don't know how I could cope if I had a child that was handicapped or mentally handicapped in some way. So for me, I'm going out there to meet these children, and I'm learning all the time and trying to understand, trying desperately to understand how they cope.
Well, now, two questions that everybody will want to have answered. What do you say, ma'am, when you read in the papers that you are a determined, domineering woman?
I don't always read that. I'm people very willing to tell me that. But I don't think I am. I'm a perfectionist with myself, but not necessarily with everybody else. And those stories arose a long time ago and have kept coming out again and again. But I don't think I am.
You feel hurt by them?
Well, obviously one does. You feel very wounded, and if it comes out, you think, oh gosh, I don't want to go out and do my engagement this morning, nobody wants to see me, help panic. But you've got to push yourself out and remember that some people hopefully won't believe everything they read about you, because there's far too much about me in the newspapers, far too much. It horrifies me when there's something more important, like what goes on in a hospice, or there's been a bomb or something. They'll put me on the front page.
But there is a natural and continuing interest in you. For example, have you actually tried to change Prince Charles in any way since you got married?
Not at all. I mean, obviously the one or two things, like maybe the odd tie or something, but nothing. Shoes. We won't go any further. But but nothing dramatic.
Now the other question is about the Prince and vegetarianism. Is that true, sir? Are you a vegetarian now?
I know I'm not a complete vegetarian, no, but I think I started to examine the things I ate slightly more carefully than I had done before, and became slightly more conscious of what I was eating, which I hadn't done. And I actually now don't eat as much meat as I used to. I eat more fish. But the point I think is very important about this is that the extraordinary thing that, in a sense, one should be accused of being in any way interested in vegetarianism. Because if you only ate meat and no vegetables, nobody would complain at all, which always seems to me rather illogical. But if somebody only eats vegetables or whatever and doesn't eat meat, then all hell seems to break loose. I've never quite understood this. I think the important thing, if you are going to change your diet in any way, is to make sure that it is adequately balanced. And in order to do that, you must either get proper advice or read the proper books and so on, because if you do it wrongly, you don't get the right intake.
Are you thinking of following in his footsteps?
No, it's always been my own idea. I mean, I prefer fish than I do meat. But it's, I don't think I'm going dotty.
It doesn't cause any problems in the family. The children like what they get.
No, I mean, they can eat what they like.
Of course, some people say that you're so slim, you probably don't eat enough anyway.
Mm. When we go on an engagement, if it's a lunchtime one, we often have a buffet lunch, so we can get around the enormous amount of people there sometimes are. So it's impossible to talk and eat at the same time. So you end up chasing a bit of chicken around the plate and never getting anything yourself. And by the time you get home, certainly there's no time, you're rushing off somewhere else. But I'm never on what's called a diet. Maybe I'm so scrawny, it's because I take so much exercise. I don't know.
And you keep up your swimming, do you?
Yes, I swim every day, sometimes twice a day, if I've got the time.
And do you have time to keep up your dancing? You're always interested in that.
I actually wanted to be a dancer, but I overshot the height by a long way. I couldn't imagine some man trying to lift me up above his arms, but I do it once a week, if I can, and it's a combination of tap, jazz and ballet. And I really enjoy it enormously, and I think it's vital to switch off for 1 or 2 hours every week.
Now, do you have any sense of living in a state of rivalry with Princess Anne, as is said time and time and time again?
None at all. Princess Anne's been working incredibly hard to Save the Children Fund, and I'm her biggest fan, because what she crams into a day I could never achieve. And we've always hit it off very well, and I just think she's marvellous. And the story arose, obviously, because she wasn't chosen, perhaps, as a godmother for Harry, which had our child been a girl, the possibility was there. But Harry arrived, so we went to a man.
Do you think sometimes that newspapers, as is the way of life, build people up and then just as quickly knock them down?
Well, they do, but there again, it's their job, isn't it, really? I came in on the scene and I apparently could do no wrong, but it's quite interesting to see the niggly things that go on now that I apparently perhaps could be doing wrong. And I'm sure, I mean, I'm not asking to be perfect, I'm far from it, but I just like the chance and opportunity to get involved in my various areas that I've chosen without people talking about being a shopaholic or something. That's not important.
But it is true, if I may say, that this question of building people up onto a pedestal, the moment that happens, along comes a separate brigade that, like knocking you off a pedestal. I mean, it's human nature, I suppose. So from that point of view, it's actually true what you say, I think, isn't it?
Well, on your pedestal, sir, there are people who say that some of your interests, say like alternative medicine, are mildly eccentric.
Oh, yes, I think I become more eccentric as I get older, probably. Well, clearly, something like, I prefer to call it complementary medicine, can easily be considered by people who don't think that it has any relevance at all as eccentric. I can understand that. But all I am concerned about is that complementary medicine or other ways of looking at the person, in other words, looking at the person not so much as a machine, but as a whole person, in the classic, ancient sense, is very important, and I don't think we should forget this aspect. And I also feel that there are certain aspects of complementary forms of medicine which can have a great deal of value and effect for certain ailments. And all I am making a plea for is a slightly more open-minded approach to this sort of thing than to just shut it off and say it doesn't exist, because there are plenty of cases, and for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, where such forms of medical treatment have worked. There's no doubt about it.
Does that extend to your interest in spiritualism, mysticism?
Well, yes, absolutely. Again, it's entirely, I think, I've been riveted by the way in which all this has developed, because I have seen articles shown to me saying that I play with Ouija boards, which I don't even know what they are. Literally, I've never seen one. I might as well say it. I might as well emphasize it, because I'm fed up with getting letters from people all the time saying, "Don't touch the Ouija boards," and which it's bad for your health. What I find so annoying is that that it should be reduced again to this level of total absurdity. I'm not interested in the occult or dabbling in black magic or any of these kinds of things, or for that matter, strange sort of forms of mysticism. I am purely interested in being open-minded. I mean, after all, there are so many inventions and things that have happened and been proved scientifically in the past, which everybody totally poo-pooed before they were proven.
Now, ma'am, a question of clothes and your clothes. So much attention, public attention, is focused on them, and so important to the fashion industry in this country. How much time do you have to give to your clothes?
Not as much as perhaps people think. My clothes are not my priority. I enjoy bright colours, and my husband likes to see me look smart, presentable. And I mean, fashion isn't my big thing at all. Obviously, if I'm helping the fashion industry and helping the British side of things, well, that's marvellous. But I never tried to do that. And I do think there's too much emphasis on my clothes.
But going away to Australia and the United States, that must involve quite a bit of work.
Well, it was like when we first went on tour after we got married. I mean, I'd had not the capacity of clothes. I mean, I had to buy endless new things, of course, because I just didn't have them. Because on a tour, you change 3 or 4 times a day. You can, sometimes. And obviously, I had to buy new things, and that was the problem. The arrival of all the new clothes were causing tremendous criticism. But what else could I do? I couldn't go around in a leopard skin something, I don't know. I had to produce something that was decent.
Do you take his advice?
Absolutely, but I mean, I ask him, but if this looks right or that looks right. but the chances of turning up in what he said is absolutely nil.
She asked me, you see, which one do I wear? I said, why did you wear that one?
Okay, and the other one.
Something else. Why do you ask me?
Have you ever been to the United States before?
No, I've never have. No, it's great excitement there.
So what are you expecting to see? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I go with an open mind. Much the easiest.
It's full of your long-lost American cousins, isn't
Yes,
it?
there's quite a few of them around.
You will meet a lot of long-lost cousins.
Yes.
And these are great occasions which you take part in, which you know other people enjoy. And yet, say, when you go abroad, you have to leave the children behind now.
Yes.
Is that a wrench?
Terrible wrench, obviously. But they must have a stable life as much as we can give. And obviously taking them around the world isn't that. But they're very well looked after here. And we miss them dreadfully, but we're coming back to them, so...
And coming back is perhaps the best part of the day.
Of course it is, yes. Very much so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey! Mind your feet.
Make funny faces over there.
Why should I do this?
Harry. Right, stand up now. William, take Harry's other hand. William, you take Harry's other hand.
Okay, here we go. That's fine. And
You want to look at him over there? Nah. Speed.
Come on, Harry, go get him.
can I go back to maybe just the two of you, just for a moment? I think if you'd still be facing the prince for me. That's...
William, show Harry how to play the piano.
You can't play it with him. Go on.
Can't play.
Go on.
Here we go. That's
to
lovely.
try pan the piano.
Right, fine, thank you.
You've got to try do the piano.
Sebastian, I need some room.
Okay. Whoops.
Harry, what are you doing over there?
You go and get Harry. Because I can't do it. It's too heavy.
Harry, not yours, Harry.
Hey!
So if you turn slightly towards me, I'm just trying to avoid a light in the window behind. Go.
Harry!
What's on his head first?
Harry, no! He's trying to do my hand off. Harry, stop doing ow! Harry!
Look, sit him on your shoulder.
Harry! Hey! Hey, Father! Look!
Gotcha. Be careful, don't put it too much.
Ow! Harry!
Now look.
Don't move!
Yes.
What's that, William? So,
Go on, take
a bus, is it? Oh, what's that?
The car!
Is that a present?
No, the car!
Knock, knock.
William!
Come on, let's quickly.
Come on.
I'll show you something.
You've got things to
Come out and I'll show you something.
Harry, go find him.
Look at me now, I'll show you. Harry, look.
Oh, she wants some glass. Could you have some powder? No, it's
Powder.
just
Powder. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah?
Go sit with Mommy now. Look. Quickly. Look. Bring it over here.
Een vredig familietafereel dat ons vanuit het Prinselijk Paleis in Londen werd voorgeschoteld. Maar of de pers zich er iets van aan zal trekken en dus minder roddels over Charles en Diana zal verspreiden, dat is nog maar de vraag. Vandaag deed het Amerikaanse weekblad Newsweek de aanval van het blad Vanity Fair nog eens dunnetjes over in een 7 pagina's tellend artikel. Maar ja, daar missen ze misschien nog de andere kant van het verhaal. Want het televisie-interview dat u vanavond bij de TROS kon zien, zal in Amerika pas in november worden uitgezonden. Wij zijn er volgende week weer, hopelijk voor u weer even verrassend als altijd. En ook dan geldt, TROS Aktua moet je zien.